All right, team, welcome back to the Ask Maddie show. We're going to have an amazing show for you guys today. You guys brought some great questions. You guys are maybe feeling a little bit on edge right now. I know I have been all over Twitter these past couple days investigating, paying close attention to my crypto, but also the news. As it is a crazy world we're living in right now, Matt. And, I actually got a text I told you about last week, and someone was like, oh my gosh, it's like World War III is going to happen. What should I do with my crypto? And I wanted to pose that to you, Matt. What are you doing with your crypto in these crazy times?
I'm not really doing anything with it other than just sticking with my consistent DCA into stuff that I know is in a deep value zone. You guys can look at times of war, and you can look at times of uncertainty, and of course we want to feel like we're going to make the exact right move. We're going to time the market, we're going to sell our bags, we're going to see this X amount of drop, and then we're going to be able to redeploy and build a bigger position. The reality is there's a lot of vacillations, especially with the current administration, whether it's about tariffs, whether it's about war, how we're approaching that, the language behind it. And you guys can see even within a 1 or 2 day period, some of those initial statements immediately reversed, and you see the markets kind of rebound. So trying to kind of play this game with the market and thinking you're going to sell and rebuy back at the perfect time is generally not going to work out very well. If you do have some sideline cash and you do see the markets get into a spot where they're a little bit more high value zone, of course you should deploy, and that's really generally the best time to deploy. When you guys look at times of war, generally after kind of that initial knee-jerk reaction, the economy actually booms very well. Why? War is the most profitable industry in the entire world, and you see risk on assets generally perform pretty well alongside that. So am I going to change my entire multi-year strategy I've been deploying here based on what we're seeing narrative-wise with US, Israel, and Iran? Absolutely not. Of course, just as a regular person, I hope that we're able to diffuse this and bring this war to an end, because war is disgusting and gross. But as far as investments go, I'm not changing my plan accordingly.
Good little take there, Matt. Team, let's get into some of the things we have for today. But before we get into that, and by the way, for today, you guys brought up some questions about some of our favorite assets. What buying are we doing? Also, some of our educational stuff, as well as, someone's a little scared here, Matt, about getting rid of their XRP ASAP. They're a little bit uneasy right now. When's the earliest I should sell, essentially? And that language is always very bad when you're looking to take profits. So we're going to get into some of those questions for today, team. But before we get into your questions today, become a Crypto Charge member. We teach you guys how to, buy crypto and all that good stuff, and hide your dollars from the U.S. government, how to efficiently store your capital in your basement so the government cannot find your secret dollars, so that you don't have to pay taxes on that. Maddie, we teach them all how to do that Crypto Charge, right?
Absolutely not. We teach you guys how to self-custody your assets, but up to you guys whether you guys report those earnings or not. If you guys decide to sell those on a non-US based exchange, but of course dollars have to trickle back into your US bank account at some point. So be prepared.
All right, Matt, let's get to the questions for today. B Hero says, you guys still buying Casper API 3 or moved on to XRP? Very odd question.
Yeah, so no more XRP from me right now. And again, I've expressed the opportunity has changed pretty dramatically as XRP has remained incredibly elevated. Let's take a peek here at the XRP price chart here. And you guys have been tracking this with us for quite some time here. You guys can see the breakout that we had for XRP. This was from, let's just even call it 50 cents, which has been kind of like the median price for XRP for years on end. Sometimes it was closer to 30, sometimes a little closer to 60. You guys got an average opportunity for about a 50 cent XRP, whether you guys time the market well or not. Mm-hmm. So from that average price, the market rocketed almost 600%. Even to right now, we are up 340% for the median price of XRP over the last several years. So I'm looking at this, average entry here. We look at, some of the Fibonacci extensions, which do start somewhere in the $5 area, but go up to 8, 13, and sometimes beyond there, 21 to 25. And you look at that risk to reward, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to me, both in the percentage of opportunity to those extensions that are available, but also by market capitalization, right? You look at XRP now at $2.17, $2, $2.50, and how much capital is required to get up to those higher prices. A lot more capital is required. Now, I still believe that we can get to those prices, but we look at opportunities like API 3 and Casper, which are two very different opportunities, right? We have XRP that's focused on cross-border payments, Ripple using it as their primary product in their tech stack. And then you have API 3, which is Oracle that competes directly with Chainlink. And then you have Casper that's focused on upgradable smart contracts. three different fundamental opportunities. What differentiates API3 and Casper also, just, if we couple those together compared to XRP, is that API3 and Casper are very small caps. You have API3 in the $100 and something million region right now, Casper in the 1, 2, 300 million, just depending on the day. These are very, very small capitalization coins. So not only do they address two very different verticals, they're offering great opportunity from amount of capital required to make some of these moves happen. So if I had to pick between those three, API3 and Casper are both very, very excellent opportunities that require just a few $billion to get 20, 30 X's out of these project potentials, whereas XRP is going to require a lot more money to get to the multiples that are equivalent that we'd see in API3 and Casper.
Timothy says, did you see Chainlink partnered with Mastercard?
Absolutely. We actually covered that on the show a couple days ago. Very exciting. Maybe it was even yesterday we covered it on the show. And I love to see that with again, Oracle's not the sexiest thing in the world, but they are super important. When you have a big company like Mastercard and they already have this huge, robust payment system and all these customers and, banks that are partnered with them to issue their cards via their networks, one of the big important things you're going to need is that Oracle to essentially not only call on correct pricing, but then to basically reroute to DEXs to find best pricing and to create those deals and to create those orders. So partnering with an Oracle like Chainlink is a very important step. I don't think it's the only partnership they're going to need also to create the most efficient railway system, right? Oracle is very important because it provides a very important job, but you might also need other tokens and networks to help facilitate large volume. Sometimes, let's say you're going to get a transaction of $20 million, $50 million. Those are not necessarily going to be easily executed on one single network. So having multiple railways is going to be, I believe, one of the steps that they're going to take for Visa, MasterCard, and obviously American Express and Discover will eventually jump on board here as well. They're going to lay multiple railways, but the Oracle is the very first step. So you're looking at, again, API3 is an opportunity that's very overlooked right now because Chainlink is just so hot and heavy in the news. You guys could really reap some of the benefits of early Chainlink investors being an API3 investor right now.
Matty, I want to ask you a question because I looked into this. I saw this comment and wanted to look into this because obviously MasterCard is a very big name. And I was looking at some of the additional partners. There's like a DEX, a Chainlink's DEX that is attached to this. And I was looking into this DEX and it looks like, it allows you to sign up using an email and then you could, I would assume, connect your, MasterCard and just buy there. And so it looks like it's trying to make it easy for you to buy using your debit credit card. And then, if you saw the infographic that Chainlink and MasterCard put out, it's, a lot of it's supposed to be happening behind the scenes, but allowing you to just come with a debit or credit card. And I wanted to ask you, because as we move along here, do you think that is a more viable, more easier option for people than, going through the whole centralized exchange route where you have to KYC and send over your driver's license and, sign up, manage passwords and 2FAs? Or do you see this other way where you can sign up using like your email, connect your debit or creded card and just buy crypto?
So anytime we have one-click bridging, which is basically what this is, you're obviously removing massive barriers to entry for the average public. So you're going to get a much larger cohort of people that previously would have not been interested now. Additionally, when you're issued a card, right? If you have a Visa, MasterCard, especially anything that's not prepaid, right? We're not talking about prepaid, Visa and MasterCards. We're talking about, cards that are issued by a bank. You have already KYC with the bank to some extent, right? In order to open up that bank account, you had to prove your identity, you had to show your driver's license, you had to show a second form of ID, you had to give them your social security number. You already have to KYC with the bank in order to receive this card that is connected to your account. So technically, when you are able to just sign up using, again, email and debit card, you're using an existing KYC event that's already occurred at the bank level. Now, down the road, are we going to see decentralized identities and, a lot more flexibility with the amount of information we share with still being able to prove ourselves an identity with merchants and one-click onboarding like we're seeing here with MasterCard? Absolutely. But to answer your question, Gavin, yes, I do believe this is going to increase the total number of participants in the crypto space with one-click bridging.
Grey Goose says, how are you bullish or trading Casper? The chart is a straight rug pull akin to ICP's chart. It's a total dud. Take a look at the Casper BTC chart, no strength. If your alt isn't outperforming BTC, zero reason to hold it. You're hoping and praying for a God candle that's immediately going to be sold off.
Cool, man. I'm curious what your altcoin portfolio looks like for the most part right now. Look at valuable and legitimate projects like Polkadot, right? Dot was so important last cycle. Everyone couldn't get more excited about the partnerships with Dot, with all of the interoperability they were going to be bringing to different networks. And Dot hasn't done shit this cycle, right? It's just been bopping around in the same channel that Chainlink and AVAX and a variety of others did as they took those leader positions. So again, there are plenty of legitimate projects out there that have big market caps that haven't done anything yet. Why? What is the other component that we always look for when we're looking for altcoin performance? Bitcoin dominance. What is Bitcoin dominance been doing right now? It has been climbing the steepest stairwell that you guys have seen in a very long time. Now we've seen some small pullbacks, right? We've seen 6% pullbacks, 8% pullbacks a few times over the last few months in here. And altcoins have done very well in those pullbacks, but we haven't seen big collapses in Bitcoin dominance yet. So the altcoin market as a whole, yeah, it's doing okay, right? It's making those rallies a little bit as Bitcoin makes those rallies. But as long as Bitcoin dominance is climbing, it doesn't matter what project you're in, whether you're in ICP or Casper or Polkadot or Ethereum, right? Those projects are still depressed. In fact, Ethereum is barely right now above some of those levels that we were at back in the bear market. Are you guys bearish on Ethereum right now? I'm going to guess that most of you guys are not bearish on Ethereum. You guys need to remember that Bitcoin dominance affects each and every altcoin. So I'm not praying for a God candle. I'm actually looking at all these different resistance levels and hey, we're going to probably pull up to this level. We're probably going to get a huge knockback from this level when the market naturally corrects, when Bitcoin dominance moves back up. There are phases to market cycles. So again, if you don't believe in the project, it's not something that resonates with you, it's not something that you like from a partnership perspective, right? AmeriCorp, Wise Token, Router Protocol, Cowl Network, these are all projects that are are making effort to build on the network right now, and we're seeing a lot of growth. We saw 2.0 release, we saw 2.2.0 release. There is active growth both on the development side and partnership side with Casper, and I think upgradable smart contracts are a very important factor. And again, a lot of you guys don't think outside the box. You're like, Bitcoin, because we have to have payments that are decentralized, peer-to-peer payments. Fantastic. And if that's the limited scope that you're going to live in for the rest of your life, fantastic. I'm here to make real life-changing money. And this point at Bitcoin at $100,000, $105,000 will not make me anywhere close to life-changing money. So let's say I'm horribly wrong about Casper and I only get a 10 or an 11x out of this, which by the way requires what, $1 billion, right? Like I'm still absolutely winning, right? Like all day long. So again, I do not care how you invest. What I share with you guys is my thesis, the things I'm looking at, both from a fundamental perspective, a chart perspective, market cap perspective, circulating supplies perspective, and I give you guys my analysis. You guys don't have to follow that. So again, if Bitcoin feels good to you and that's the way you want to go after it, get after it. I don't give a shit. It's not my money. But I'm going to continue with my alt portfolio. I feel good about it. Some of my stuff is done very, very well. Again, people were telling me, don't worry about XRP, man. This thing's never, it's going to be labeled as security. Everything else is taken off, bro. You missed it, right? You missed the right opportunity. I'm up significantly on my XRP position, and it was one of those things that was a very difficult opportunity to convince people to invest in for several years on end. So again, do I care about your opinion on my initial investment when my timeline is not 2 or 3 days or even 3 months? No, of course not.
Mm-hmm. I love that, Maddie. And just to kind of piggyback off that, if someone, I'm guessing this is like a new comment here and you haven't been with us for a while, go back into some of the shows when we're covering, Bitcoin dominance, because we've seen crashes, little crashes in Bitcoin dominance last year. I think, Maddie, the last big crash in Bitcoin dominance, I may be mistaken, but I think it was December of 2024. You can double check me on that. And that is when we saw XRP, HBAR, a flurry of other cryptos fly, just like Maddie was showing right there on the XRP chart earlier. Am I right on that? Or
absolutely. So it was basically like end of November through top of December. We saw about 11% decrease in Bitcoin dominance. And again, just that 11% decrease over a 2-3 week period provided alts to do 5, 6, 8x's, right, in a matter of 30 days or less. So again, am I promising you guys that all happens at the exact same speed? No. We even saw a drop in dominance of top of May through May 14, saw alts get a little bit of opportunity there as well to not get beat up as much. So, you actually get a true collapse in dominance. We get up into the 70s, we get up into maybe even the 80s, right? We see something we haven't seen before. And then you see a 30, 40, 50% capitulation in Bitcoin dominance. Yeah, altcoins are going to be spanking Bitcoin's ass all day long.
Benny the Jet says, I'm scared that I'll miss out on selling my XRP. When is the earliest I should get out to be the safest?
So, safe is relative. And this is one of the concepts that we talk about on a regular basis is risk appetite. total exposure, balance in your portfolio, revolving debts in your life, right? There's a lot of X factors that I can't answer blankly without having those components, right? And that's one of the things I do in my one-on-one sessions is we go through a lot of your personal goals, personal risk appetite, and we're able to get a little bit of a bigger picture here. As far as, the general strategy that we have on the website, which I would encourage you guys to check out, the Consistent Investor Strategy, 45-minute video, really explains our whole thesis about long-term investing, when to sell, how much to sell, and again, that's going to be dependent on you. Should be a minimum of a 3-part take profit. For some people, it will be more than that, right? Especially if they have heavy exposure. They need to rebalance. They need to reduce that exposure to take care of other things. But we have somewhere between like the $8 and $13 area is kind of like that first big pocket where a lot of people are considering taking profits. Now, one of the initial Fibonacci's, if you look at, a more recent range, is kind of like $5.20. If you wanted to add an additional trim there, you're like, hey, I want to take something off the table. I don't want to reduce all of it. I want to take 10%, I want to take 15%. Sure, go for it, especially if you have a great average, right? 50, 60 cents. You're still providing yourself a great ROI. You guys can take a little bit of a trim there. But my biggest guidance I give for you guys is that take profit one should be the move that helps you mitigate your initial capital invested at least, right? So whatever you put into the project at TP1, the minimum we should be extracting is what we put into the project at TP1. Now, I would encourage that to be a little bit more than that. It should be somewhere at least around the 35% region. That should help alleviate for the most part your average. But again, if you have a very high average, I can't guarantee that is also going to satiate you taking out the initial capital. So TP1 should be mitigating initial capital at the minimum. That way you have protected capital and you brought it back into your wallet, right? Cash money back in your wallet. And then you can decide how you want to mitigate the rest of the risk. I would encourage you guys to make sure that in TP1 that you also are realizing some profit on top of just recovering the initial capital. But it's completely up to you guys. So a minimum of 3-step TP. Sometimes it's gonna be 4 or 5 if you guys are doing trims, or if you guys have a large amount of risk on the table or other things that are affecting your risk appetite. But that's how I'd approach it. But again, check out the website. We have tons and tons of resources there. We have the Discord where you guys can kind of see how other people are approaching their TPs. And of course the coin library, we give you guys that sample for a lot of different coins of how we would approach that multi-step TP.
Maddie, what are you doing in that scenario? Because in my first TP, I'm taking my initial investment out, but I'm also taking a lot extra. I'm selling a large portion at TP1. What are you doing?
Yeah, so basically I'm going to be doing almost like a 5-step TP, because I'm going to be doing 8, right? I'm going to be doing 8, 10, and 13 as kind of like the first TP, right? But it's going to be a 50% sell between 8 and 13 divided up between those. Okay. So I'm going to be realizing profits all the way in that pocket. I know it's a very lucrative pocket because it's where the Fibonacci's have been laid, not just from this cycle, but from very old cycles. So there's traders that have been accumulating positions that are also looking at those Fibonacci targets. So it's likely that I'm going to be selling into that strength with a lot of other traders as well. So if I sell 8, 10, and then maybe we get a huge pullback, we don't get to 13, great. I've at least sold 2/3 of the tranche I intended to sell up into that region and mitigated some of that risk. So I would encourage you guys to have multiple orders, multiple tranches to be able to execute.
Yeah, I think the message there, Matt, is you have to have multiple. I think I approach it a little bit differently because I am doing 3. And how I view it is, just from what I've seen with the past, everyone's trying to give a price target. And, we talk about, or, you'll go to the charts and talk about a price target, or we'll just yap about price targets like we were talking about Vivo Power last week. And I think when it comes to that, I don't think, of course, I hope you guys understand, like, that's not us saying like, hey, we're waiting for that price to sell, or, it's going to hit that exact price. We're of course looking at the charts and trying to see into the future. But I think with my approach, Matt, and I think this has become very easy for me to look at selling my crypto, is I have a more conservative price target that is TP1. And then I have my expectation all-time high, my middle price target, my TP2, and then my crazy price target, which is like the 8 Fibonacci on XRP, which is my third price target. And that is because I'm gonna be around my desk all the time, and I know I'll be able to lock in and sell that. And I think what everyone likes to do, Matt, is everyone wants to sell. When you look at like a chart that has flown high, like XRP, like Bitcoin, some of our favorites here, everyone talks about that all-time high, but no one ever got to sell that all-time high. What if you could, take your risk off the table with the earlier price target and be able to potentially sell as high as you can with the price target, and obviously like there's strategy that goes into this. You don't, break it up and divide it all equally. You sell big during that conservative price target, because what people usually think doesn't end up really happening. Whatever you think is going to happen, think the opposite, honestly. And I've seen that work more in favor. That's not to say it's like, okay, I have a approach to selling my crypto, so I'm just going to, wait till, $10, $21 on XRP to sell. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is maybe spread out your expectations through multiple TPs. And I think you'll be genuinely more happy. I don't know. What do you think of that advice, Matt?
Definitely. I would also encourage you guys not to reverse engineer your TP plan, meaning if you guys have, I want to make X amount of dollars, that you adjust the amount that you sell up into the higher targets and don't really sell anything at the lower targets because you want to make a certain amount of money. Just accept at face value the amount you have invested and what those TPs look like. We have actually a great Excel sheet that our moderator Dustin made in the Discord, where you guys can plug in all of your assets, all of your averages, and then you can toy around with different percentages that you would sell at your different TPs, and it'll show you, your overall spread. That's a very important part that you guys need to do, is have a written down plan. It doesn't have to be Excel, even though it does make things very, very easy for you guys. Yeah. A notebook, something. If you just have the plan in your head and you're like, yeah, I think I'm going to do this, I guarantee you are more likely to deviate from that very loose plan that you have in your brain versus having it written down. Remember, guys, we're humans. We digest thousands and thousands of pieces of new information a day, and tons of stuff leaves our brain every day in order to make room for that new short-term stuff. So having things like that written down is so important, whether it's in a notebook or an Excel. I would encourage you guys to check out our Excel sheet. Again, 30 days free at CryptoCharge allows you guys to get in the Discord and get that information. Take the Excel sheet, even if you guys decide that CryptoCharge isn't good for you. Check out the consistent investor strategy if you guys are new, trying to figure out how to strategize. Check out a few of our live shows, our coin library. 30 days, guys. You have to strip all these resources from my website, and if you guys decide, hey, it's not for me, no problem. I would rather you guys walk around like educated people and understand what you're doing from an investment perspective than to just be afraid of subscribing and checking out the program.
Absolutely, Matt. We teach you guys how to commit tax fraud and hide your crypto. So sign up at CryptoCharge today. Team, that's all we have for today. We will see you guys next week. Bye.